Welcome back, folks. We are now ready to get into a little bit more of a 102 after the 101 basics. So, what I'll be talking more about this in this episode is focusing on the esports scene. Now, League of Legends, the DraftKings will focus mainly on the four major regions. We have the LCK, which is the Korean region, the LPL, the China region, LEC, which is the European region, and the LCS, the North American region. Of course, most of us here in North America want to root for LCS. They are unfortunately currently the weakest region out of the four, but nonetheless, they have sophisticated players and they have talent they should be excited about, because this past international event we saw North America beating China, the number one region currently. And that's good fun, man. That's awesome to continue to root for them. We see a closing of the skill gap. Now, it's important to make a distinction between all these regions. Why? Because stylistically, they play very differently, and so it changes the approach that I do in DraftKings. Knowing how a team, their current plan to attack, how they accumulate stats, and things such as those will be helpful for you. League of Legends is a game where the game can go on forever until the one team destroys the enemy's base, the heart of their base, which is called the Nexus. It's a big crystal. These are the small crystals. Later on, you'll see a little bit of the bigger crystal, hopefully through these highlights on there. But the game can go on forever, you know. So each team has their different style. You have styles that want to play the map, putting pressure. They want to destroy the enemy defense, which are mainly protected by let's see, 11 turrets. Yes, 11 turrets, and they have to place pressure. These minions that you see here, these are the pawns. They will keep spawning, and they become important part of map pressure. So that's one style, trying to play around the map. So these type of style, your players are not as focused on trying to kill the other opponent, which are the heart and soul of League of Legends points. As you know, kill, death, assist, those are your major point earners. So maybe that's the kind of style that you may not prefer as much for DFS purposes, but it's great fun to see. And then you have those which are, you know, typically of the China style, which is to kill. They fight, team fight. They want to group up. They want to get those kills. So there's a high potential for a lot of DFS points, DK points, as well as a high potential for a lot of penalty for dying too many times. And then you have anything in between those, you know, putting pressure, doing well in fights. Some are more preferable in playing around the neutral objectives, which is another vocabulary hopefully that you learn, which is killing the big dragons, or something that's called the Baron Nashor, which gives them a boost in their stats, gives them a better ability. When two teams are evenly matched, these buffs will become critical in helping one of the teams win the game, be able to take over and win. So you see there's the Baron Nashor that you see right there. He's one of the bigger main objectives. Teams can fight for it, and then you see another team just jump in and try to steal it. So those are exciting things to watch out for. So that's another style in playing. The other last style that I'll talk about is the split push, what they will call split push. And while I don't have a total grasp of explaining it here to you, what this basically means is you have 3 of your 5 members just fighting or trying to distract the enemy team, while 2 others are solo pushing by themselves, applying pressure throughout the map to force the players to just force the opponents to have to make decisions, and they can't. Eventually, they might feel overwhelmed and then eventually get destroyed, or they must make a decision of what the next action is to take to win the game. So there's a lot of micro strategies, which makes this game really exciting. But for our purposes, much like for those who you watch NBA or play or watch the NFL, you want the touchdowns, you want the basket, you want the rebounds, right? Those are your kill, death, assist scores. Those are the main ones. The other ways they score points is to killing creeps, but really they don't give you a lot of points until you accumulated a lot of creeps scored. And depending on the positions, traditionally a typical position have more creep score than others, so that's why they are considered more important. And I'll talk about that later on. So let me talk a little bit about the regions. I cover mainly the LCS, the North American, and the LAC, the European region, because they play they're a weekend type of game, and can prepare for them throughout the week. Whereas the Asian regions, they play every weeknight, and that's a little bit tedious, and it's much smaller pools. Those are your 2-game slates, 3-game slates. Whereas in EU and LCS, you'll have at least 6 games every time they play, and there's a higher variance there and easier to prepare for, in my opinion, but also much more challenging to take down a tournament. For our purposes, I'll explain to you that North American plays a little bit between the slow, methodical, yet not very poorly executed. I have to say, they're very poorly executed strategies in winning. Certain teams, of course, love the fights, love the skirmishes a little bit. EU is more of a region that has a large variety. They have ones that really play for the slow game and accumulate all those map pressures while also leveling up their champions, and versus those who are chaotic. They don't follow certain rules that most people follow. They are not textbook. So you think of the Los Angeles Rams, maybe of the NFL, or you just picture a team that doesn't play how the sports traditionally is played, and gives for excitement there. So in the previous video, if you watch the basics, I mentioned there are 5 positions you have to know. There's the top, there's the mid, there is the jungler, there is the AD or attack damage role, also known as the bot lane, and there's the support role. Mid and AD are your 2 main damage dealers, and necessarily they correlate very highly in their kills and assist stats. Support mainly relies on assists. They are the lowest in terms of creep score, so you don't even account those for them. Junglers are your wild card. Their mission is to help out while just leveling themselves up, while getting stronger through non-traditional phase lanings. They have this wild card. They can jump from top, mid, bottom. They just help out all over the map. They have a lot of responsibilities, but sometimes they can be an important role as well. And as far as fantasy points go, they can earn quite a few, especially in the assist and kill. Top laners traditionally, and I'm talking, it really depends. Top laners traditionally are the heavy farmers. What I mean by that is they try to go for creep score. They have a low kill potential typically, and they become more of a tank to the damage absorbers. That's traditionally what their roles have been. Things have changed a little bit, but we want to have the basics so far. They are commercial. They are the ones that take attention from enemies. They might die a lot because of that, so they're not a very sexy position. So your teams, when you build your roster, you want to focus mainly on the mid and AD. And then for my own, I like the support being one of the more important positions because of their abilities to correlate highly with their AD. Because when the AD, they're always close by the bot laner, the ADC, they call it AD. When they're close by to them, when the AD gets kills, that means the support gives the assist, and that's a stack option, you know. So that's how these 5 positions are viewed. When you allocate your salary for lineup building, you want to focus on mid, AD carry, then support. Jungler sometimes can, and that depends on the team. Just follow me and I will let you know which team I would prefer the junglers to be a important role for the team. They can sometimes be a great source of kills. They can sometimes be a great source of assists. And of course, the last one I'll prioritize is the top. There's one more position, and that's the team position. This is the only way that team positions score points is through just the objectives. Like I mentioned, they take down Drakes, you take down Barons, you take down turrets. That's how they accumulate points. while it's safe, there's very little variability in how team scores. They do so there's a consistency. Typically, if your team wins, you can expect your points to stay in the higher end. If they lose, of course, depends on how many objectives the other team has taken. So I don't prioritize that as well, but they remain the cheapest position naturally in your line of building. So again, to go over the basics, I would prioritize the mid, I would prioritize the ADC, then followed by support, jungle, top, team. In certain cases, it's mid, ADC, or ADC, mid, jungle, support, top, team. Alright, so that's a little bit of the basics of what you'll need to prepare for as you go into League of Legends. Any questions, just hit me up. Any explanations you need. Continue to watch in the next series as I'll dive into a little bit more about DraftKings scoring.